Episode 16 of The Tale of Lady OK begins with Sungwai's letter. He plans to write his next novel on the admirable life of Taeyoung. Meanwhile, Sohai has reported Taeyoung and she is taken to the quarantine shelter. At the shelter, Taeyoung spots Yoonjaeum and Haegang defends him. In Ching, they expanded Devoted Hearts to shelter all outcasts including runaway slaves. Minister Bak targeted them again and killed everyone. Yoonjaeum was in misery when Doojaeum found him. Due to the danger, he stayed away including the time Taeyoung spotted him in Incheon. He also has a terminal sickness and lost his voice due to the trauma in Ching. The slaves miss Mansuk and recall the fun times they had together. They imagine Mansuk joining them. He jokes as usual and asks them to live diligently. Meanwhile, the nobility feels that Taeyoung and Sungwai have been unfairly targeted. They recall all the good they did for the county. Madam Hong and Miraung try to buy Taeyoung but Sohai refuses. Led by Cha, they decide to petition the king to show mercy to the couple. Daki and Kudong join them for their own reasons. Daki blames himself for Sungwai's mess, while Taeyoung treated Kudong as an equal. Even though the slaves are flogged for protesting to the officers, they don't stop. Wanting to keep his promise to Sungwai and protect Taeyoung, Doojaeum admits himself to the quarantine shelter. Hyo Soon also shows up as one of the doctors as he assumed he would get free food. He is the one who tells Taeyoung that the virus is not contagious. They all get together and try to figure it out. Just then, Doojaeum shows some symptoms. After he injured his hand from punching Yoonjaeum, Scholar Lee shared his licorice painkiller. They observed that all the patients had some prior pain and got the symptoms after taking the painkiller. At the same time, Governor Hyo orders Diakon and the lieutenant to follow Bak and his men. They end up at the pharmacy where Sol-gi has been selling the licorice painkiller. They also realize that Bak had Taeyoung's father, Gi-juk, hostage and only used him at the end to prolong the scandal. This way, no one would investigate the virus. Back at the quarantine shelter, after discussing with the other doctors, Hyo soon gathers that the painkiller is laced with a toxic herb and can be treated with Bexacho roots. It is unavailable as Bak has hoarded all of it. Taeyoung also recalls seeing the toxic herb in Sohai's cellar. To fill the coffers of the chief minister, Bak has been hoarding the medicine and grains sent for the shelter. He has also spread the virus, so once the country reaches a breaking point, he will sell the food and the cure at an exorbitant amount. Unfortunately, one of the guards alerts Bak that Taeyoung has figured out his plan. Sohai stands up to Bak, who is amused. Having caught him in a good mood, she learns that Taeyoung could not have caught the virus. She figures out his scheme and offers to help deliver the poison. In return, she wants to be his official wife and he needs to burn the quarantine shelter with Taeyoung in it. This will also erase any possible evidence. With Taeyoung having caught onto Bak's plan, he agrees to Sohai's way. Bak shows up at the shelter and gloats about taking down Taeyoung. He announces the burning of the shelter and all its inhabitants due to the virus being airborne. Fortunately, Yoonjaeum reaches in time and alerts Hyo that the medicine Bak has been circulating is toxic but not contagious. Wanting to cut ties, Bak's benefactor, the chief minister, puts out an arrest warrant. Bak is arrested and branded while Sohai becomes a government slave. Diakon and the lieutenant share the cure and free everyone. At the shelter, Yoonjaeum finally approaches Taeyoung. She did resent him but asks him not to take all the blame as she too failed as his wife. He is further shocked to learn that Sungwai has taken the fall and her secret has been discovered. Doojaeum spots him as well and is furious. He punches Yoonjaeum and claims that Sungwai is his only brother. Wanting to help, Yoonjaeum tests himself to ensure the virus is not contagious. And finally, when they find a cure, he rushes to Governor Hyo. He barely makes it as his illness gets worse. He stammers but finally tells Hyo all that has been going on. After resolving the quarantine fiasco, Hyo gives him permission to switch places with Sungwai in prison as his doppelganger is still guilty of defying the Qing royal order which warrants execution. Sungwai is furious with him but Yoonjaeum reveals he did return, the day Doojaeum left for Hanyang. He could not replace Sung Wai back then. However, he wants to keep his promise so Do Jayam doesn't lose his brother. Before Sung Wai can make a decision, Yun Jayam dies. The officers proclaim that it is Sung Wai's dead body, but Do Jayam knows the truth and cries. Heo orders the volunteers to go back to where they came from, and Tae-young defends the enslaved volunteers. Heo agrees to house them, but there is more. The king has been moved by the petitions. He is also impressed at how she saved everyone and revokes Tae-young's status as a slave. She is finally free and welcomed jovially by everyone, including her father. 3 years pass by and Cheongsu is now known for its aloe. Lee and Cha bicker over the welfare of their county while Do Jayam is the special inspector. Tae-young's law firm is back in business and Kudong is a lawyer. In fact, Solgi's law firm is so impressed, they want to poach him. Miriam's daughter is called Becky and she loves hanging out with Maxim and Daki. Tae-young's son is called Mansuk and he spends his days with Gi-juk. Do Jayam and Miriam visit them at their seaside residence and Sung Wai welcomes them warmly. Turns out, he did switch places with Yun Jayam after he died. Sung Wai has finally finished his novel and Tae-young teases him for taking 3 years. They join the rest by the beach as the tale of Lady OK episode 16 ends. And with that, the tale of Lady OK episode 16 wraps up this tumultuous but sweet K-drama. All the characters get closure in their redemption arc, including Governor Heo, Scholar Lee, Yun Jayam, and Mansuk. We are especially glad that the show did not forget Mansuk. The finale gives him a worthy tribute, which many dramas fail to do for their secondary characters once they are killed off early in the runtime. Then there is Yun Jayam and his mysterious aloofness, which finally makes sense. Sure, we are mad at him like Tae-young, but at least he was able to set things right by helping the patients, Do Jayam and Sung Wai. However, we can't help but notice how Sung Wai doesn't have much of a role in the finale. We do see this with male-led shows where the women are passive, but neither is good writing. But we can look past it as the bad guys get their due, particularly So-hye. She is not only caught, but gets back what she deserves by making her a slave. Yet, the episode doesn't spend too much time on the nitty-gritty, opting to quickly expose box schemes so it can go back to hashing out a plausible happy ending for our protagonists. We don't remember the new name Sung Wai had in mind for Gudiak, but had he given that to Tae-young in the end, it would have been a nice touch. Nevertheless, a good finale for a good drama.